Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we're doing something a little bit different. I am playing in an online qualifier for the European Legacy Masters. This is a tournament that is taking place at Eternal Mania, which I have adverts for later on, which you can check out. And Eco Baronin has got together with the ELM people to put on a little online qualifier. There's 32 of us in this, and it's a double elimination tournament. So we're going to play as many rounds as we can before we are knocked out or we win the tournament. The deck I've chosen to play is, of course, my beloved Green-Black Turbodepths. This is a deck where we win via Marit Lage. We use Thespian Stage to copy the Dark Depths, and this gives us a 20/20. Or we use Hexmage to strip off the counters, it gives us a 20/20. We've got fast mana to power this out. We've got hand disruption to check the coast is clear and take out annoying pieces. We've got tutors to make this happen, and once upon a time to smooth our early draws. We've got ways to protect our Marit Lage, and ways to protect our lands, and sometimes our Marit Lage if something like a Karakas is involved, using the Needles and Disruptor Flute. And obviously Not of This World can hit Solitudes, it can hit Karakas, it can hit Maze of Ith, it can hit Swords to Plowshares, it does a lot. We've got a few silver bullets in the land, like Bojuka Bog for graveyard matchups, which is pretty key given how good the blue-black reanimator deck is. A Boseiju we can tutor for with Sylvan Scrying to blow up annoying things like ensnaring bridges. A Ghost Quarter, which is another way to get around Wasteland, and the reason we run Ghost Quarter is because Pithing Needle is going to be naming Wasteland a lot of the time, so then we can go and get the Ghost Quarter to blow up another problematic land like a Maze of Ith or a Karakas or whatever. And a Sejiri Steppe is a nice bit of protection where we can crop rotate for it in response to a removal spell. That's the deck. I play a lot on my channel, and if you want to know more about this deck, you can check out my Patreon where I have a big long guide to this. Sideboard-wise, we've got some extra graveyard hate for Ouphe spells. We've got some Collector Ouphe to try and shut down some of these Karn Forge as well as Ouphe spells decks. A couple of Safekeeper to protect us from removal. Some Abrupt Decays to answer Harbinger of the Seas, Magus of the Moon, Blood Moon, Opposition Agent, Ensnaring Bridge. Kind of everything we want, really. We've got Not of This World, so we can go up to 4 copies when we need to protect our creature. And we've got a couple of Disruptor Flutes, which is just a nice little flexible thing. So sometimes it can name a combo card like Doomsday and slow them down. Sometimes it can name Swords to Plowshares, make that cost 4 mana, so they can't necessarily navigate what we're putting down. Obviously, it can just name Wastelands, Karakas, that sort of stuff too. So that's the deck. This tournament is going to be relatively high quality in terms of the players. So we're going to see how we go today. We could be playing just 2 rounds. We could be playing a lot more. We'll see how the tournament progresses. Alright, like, subscribe, and let's get through this tournament. For the best Eternal experience this summer, check out Eternal Mania in Hasselt, Belgium from August 8th to 10th. Aside from hosting the European Legacy Masters, they have a whole host of other tournaments from team trios to old school and pre-modern. I will be there playing Legacy and hanging out as a special guest. This will also be the first event that I'll be giving out my own special Marit Lage tokens, so why not come down to enjoy an awesome weekend ran by one of the best TOs in Europe. Alright, we're into the first round. This is my opening hand and I'm on the play. I don't particularly like this one. I think we can do better. Okay, I would describe this one as better. So we keep this, we need to decide what is going to be more important for us. So we're probably going turn 1, Inquisition of Kozilek. And then we have to decide if we're going to be keeping this Not of This World or this Pithing Needle. I think the Pithing Needle is probably the better one, because Wasteland isn't something we can take with Inquisition of Kozilek, but the Not of This World, the things that this can stop, the Inquisition can also stop. So I think we put back the Not of This World, and then we have our 2 black sources, we've got our Dark Depths, so we can just do Hexmage on turn 3. I think we're getting a basic Swamp here. So we need to decide how much we want to Wasteland. If we get the Bayou here, then we can expose ourselves a little bit. We're going to be playing the Pithing Needle next turn anyway, so I think we get the Swamp now, and then we get to Inquisition our opponent. And then next turn we can play the Needle and then play our land, or we can play our land and go around in days. Okay, so we've got Brainstorm, Force of Will, Fatal Push. So the only card we care about here is Force of Will, which we can't take. We can take the Brainstorm, which is obviously something we do care about a little bit as well, because this is A, the blue card for Force of Will, and B, it can shuffle up their hand and get them stuff that actually matters. So we take the Brainstorm here, and then we pass it over. So then, on our next turn, we can play the Pithing Needle. We can name Wasteland still. I'm not going to try and name one of these fetches. That isn't usually a play that's worth doing. I can play around Days as well here. Do I want this Thespian stage in play? I don't believe so. I think we're just playing out the Bayou here. And I'll play this Pithing Needle. Orcish Bowmasters suggests that our opponent is doing a fair blue-black deck. Normally, the sort of flex slots of creatures tend to be things like Doughty Voidwalkers and Murktides, rather than Bowmasters, which tend to be a sideboard card. They milled over a Bowmasters. They're thinking about whether or not they want a Force of Will here. Right, let's name Wasteland. Next turn, we can slap down the Hexmage. They can obviously Force of Will that. But if they do, then we just play the Thespian stage. And then we have it the turn after. So we're in a pretty good position. Something like a Brazen Borrower could be the thing that they're looking to draw here. They likely have 1 to 2 in their deck. There are some builds that don't run Borrowers, but I don't think it's worth not running Borrower. Borrower's just too good. Our opponent has 1 mystery card in hand. It could be blue for this Force of Will. We've got Tammy over here. This can block our creature. Is it worth Thoughtseizing here? I don't think it is. Can I have a Hexmage? Alright. So we'll get an indication about what they want to do with this Tamiyo. Is it going to be attacking us? They could Fatal Push our guy now to force us into making the 2020, and then they can try and have a Borrower on their turn. Okay, they didn't do that. So it depends what mana they tap out of here. Can give us an indication whether or not we need to Thoughtseize before going. Because we've got time here. A Ponder. Sure. So still got another land drop, so they can still find the Brazen Borrower. We're going to get some information based on what our opponent does with this Ponder, whether or not they shuffle. Also, they're at 19 life, so if they plus a Tamiyo as a Planeswalker, our 19-20 creature will be enough to kill our opponent. They didn't shuffle. Is that to project strength? Or is it that they actually found the thing they wanted? They're not attacking with the Tamiyo here. So they kept a card off of the Ponder. I don't think we need to go for it now because we already have the Thoughtseize. Let's Thoughtseize our opponent here. We know they've got 2 black cards in hand. They can't Fatal Push our creature and have the mana to Brazen Borrower in response here. So because we had the hand disruption in hand, we could take an extra turn. Ordinarily, though, I would be more inclined to send it and start crunching through the Tamiyo. But because we actually had a tool and we saw the Ponder. Right, we've got Force of Will, pitching a Daze here. So our opponent has 1 mystery card in hand. Interesting. That suggests that they're either projecting strength here. Right, so here is the Orcish Bowmasters. They're going to ping the Hexmage, I would imagine. And then we have a choice to make. They're taking a long time to decide where to ping this, which is interesting. They are going for the Hexmage. So we can go for the Dark Depths right now. If our opponent's 1 card in hand is the Brazen Borrower, that's pretty good. I think I'm okay to do this. This stops them getting a 1-1 off of the Orcish Bowmaster trigger. Now, if they have the Borrower as their last card in hand, that's obviously bad news for us. But they kept back the Tamiyo. Were they being extra defensive or not? We're getting a lot of information about how our opponent likes to play right now. Right, a Ponder. Kind of feels like we may have been able to get away with it last turn. Okay, they shuffled off this Ponder. But, like I said, we had the hand disruption, so it was worth trying to see if we could get there with it. Alright, we're cracking the Polluted Delta. They got Mystic Sanctuary here, which is probably going to put like a Ponder on top. There it is. So, okay, we got a stock up. Okay, so our opponent is quite a big deck. They're going quite high above the curve to try and beat up on the sort of lower to the ground decks. Interesting. Because normally the way you beat a deck is by being a similar deck, but just slightly bigger than it. So, Sejiri Steppe or Crop Rotation both look good here. There is a Crop Rotation. I will float black here. There is our Sejiri Steppe. Let's give our creature Pro Blue. And then we swing with Marit Lage here. Our opponent didn't really put us under any pressure, so we had time to leverage our Thoughtseize and get there. Okay, so blue-black tempo / mid-range. So Disruptor Flutes are useful here. The Sylvan Safekeepers are fine. The Not of This World are fine. We probably need some amount of Abrupt Decays. Our opponent's going to have Harbinger of the Seas. So we're probably looking at 3 cards that get to come in here. Possibly 4. So I'll take 3 Abrupt Decays. We can take out the Bojuka Bog, and we can either have another Abrupt Decay or we can have this Disruptor Flute. I think I want the flutes, so this can name Kaito as well. I think that's probably what we're looking at here. This matchup is relatively even. It's definitely the worst of all the tempo matchups because of Shoulder's Edict. I'm not playing the Defender Rider, which is normally the card that you reach for if that's the very specific deck that you're worried about. But Shoulder's Edict is basically the card we care about the most. Like, we can use Not of This World to defend against Brazen Borrowers. We can also use Disruptor Flute to make Petty Theft cost more. We can use this to make our their Shoulder's Edict cost more as well. This is a lot of crop rotations. So we can obviously find the pieces we require, but then we have to go through the gauntlet of counter magic. And we already have a Sejiri Steppe in hand, which is the last place we want that card. So it's like an easy mulligan to me. This one, we have the ability to deal with a Harbinger of the Seas if that's our opponent's game plan, but I don't think this one's keepable. Nope, I think we're mulliganing again. This is not ideal. Okay, this one is fine. So we have Urborg, Hexmage, Sylvan Scrying, and probably the Spirit Guide here. This is not a great opening hand because we're on 4 cards, but it can give us a turn 2 kill, or a turn 2 20/20, which might just be enough. I suspect if we get hit by a Thoughtseize, things are going to go very south very quickly. Island. We're going to see a Tamiyo? Sure. Bayou. Does that change what we want to do? I don't think it does. So we want to go relatively quickly so we can go underneath the stuff our opponent has. Because if we give them time to sculpt, especially with a Tamiyo in play, they're going to have the answers. So we don't want to see counter magic on this. Okay, we got Force of Will. That's not the end of the world. We can just naturally draw the Dark Depths here, and we're okay. Alright, Tamiyo is going to start generating clues. They're going to have a second land so they can start cracking them. I imagine so. Brainstorm. Okay, so they're going to flip the Tamiyo after they got their clue, and now we're under the pressure of a Tamiyo. Now what we can do, if it gets serious, we can play the Vampire Hexmage and remove all the counters from the backside of Tamiyo, which will kill it. So if our opponent just wants to go upstairs with it over and over again, we can deal with that. But if they start minusing it to get Force of Wills, then things get a little bit awkward. So I would very much like to draw a Dark Depths, please. Nethergoyf, we don't care about this. Only 2 cards left in our opponent's hand. A crop rotation, you say. Alright, here goes the thing we have. We're on reduced resources. We need to get this game won before the Tamiyo shreds us to pieces. I don't like how long this is sat on the stack for. Our opponent did get to sculpt some nice cards with that Brainstorm as well. They've got a Daze. They do want to fire it off on this, I think. Gives them a window to then wasteland our stuff next turn. Right, Dark Depths. Let's cast the thing we have. We go for it here. If this resolves, we make it 20/20 now so we can dodge a wasteland. Alright, so they did have Force of Will. So we are just a Thespian stage away now. Or another Hexmage. So we've got 7 draws that do win us the game pretty much immediately. But they can go and get back this Brainstorm. Alright, they're just going to go upstairs to Tamiyo and try and win this game by drawing all the cards. That's perfectly reasonable. Right, they found a land here. A Lotus Petal. Are we playing that out, or are we keeping it in hand? I think we play it out. Okay, Thespian stage, or a crop rotation does it. We need to get the game won before our opponent pops his Tamiyo, which is not looking very likely right now. But we were on a multi-4, and our opponent had to have double Force of Will to not lose the game. Alright, there is our Verdant Catacombs. Our opponent will draw all the cards. And I don't think we win from that point. Now, this is obviously a pretty competitive tournament, and there's a lot on the line because there's a ticket to the European Legacy Masters, so I will play the rest of this game out, whereas normally if I was in a league, I would scoop to this. But we're not going to run out of time, given the nature of the deck I'm playing. So we may as well see if our opponent just happens to not find anything that interacts with what we're doing. If they wasteland us right now, then I'll scoop. Alright, there's a wasteland. You going to fire it off? They should do. Harbinger of the Seas. Okay. We'll scoop that so they think it's better than it is. Okay, so double Force of Will is what was required to beat our multi-4. I feel pretty happy about how we sideboarded here. So we're going to go in again. We can use their Harbinger of the Seas as our combo piece, so we can hold this like Abrupt Decay and wait till they play the Harbinger and then drop the Dark Depths. It comes in with no counters, then we blow up their Harbinger, and then we're all good. That's another option we have available to us in matchups like this. But if they have a Wasteland on the field, then when the Harbinger of the Seas leaves, then the trigger goes on the stack, and then they have a window to Wasteland. So you have to be a little bit careful. But if they tap out for like a Harbinger, that's normally the perfect opening for us. But they usually only have maybe 2 Harbingers, so we don't want to lean too hard into that plan. But it's just something to keep in the back of your mind when you're playing this matchup. I don't think we can keep this. It doesn't have a route to the combo. We get around Wastelands. We start casting Sylvan Scrying. It's a little bit slow. It is a little bit slow. I'm going to keep this though. And I think I'm going to bin off. I think it's a Spirit Guide that goes here. This is a little bit of a clunky hand. But we have protection from one of the best things they have in their deck. Now, they can obviously counter this, but they didn't. Okay. So we don't have to worry about Wastelands. We just need to worry about Harbinger and the Counter Magic Edict type stuff. We probably have to play this Boseiju as a land, but because we've got the Needle down, we don't really need this to blow up a Wasteland anymore. This also can't target your own things to then go and get you a basic, whereas you can target your own stuff with Ghost Quarter. Ponder from our opponent. Good. It's not a 1-mana Planeswalker. That's what we like to see. Just do some pondering. So this is half of the mana we need to cast an Abrupt Decay. I think we want the Depths to be the last card out of our hand as well. Just so we can play around the Harbinger of the Seas a little bit more easily. Because if we can get a copy of it in with no counters on, it makes our life a lot easier to combo. Our opponent's tanking a little while on his Ponder. They did not shuffle. Another Pithing Needle. It's not really the one we want. So play out of the Boseiju. I'll play out this Lotus Petal so we can pay around a days at least. Let's go for a Sylvan Scrying. Force of Will pitching days. Sure. We have another Scrying. As long as we can get hold of the Dark Depths, we have a lot of copies of things that go with Dark Depths because we have the 4 Hexmage, the 4 Thespian stage, then we've got all of our tutors that also find a Thespian stage if needed. Whereas the Dark Depths half, we just have the 8 tutors and the Dark Depths. We only have 12 copies of Dark Depths effectively, but we have 16 copies of our other card. Mystic Sanctuary tapped. Not a massive sign of strength, which is good news for us. Okay, I'm going to cast a Sylvan Scrying. Do we... I think we do play out this Verdant Catacombs. That way we can play around double days if it comes up. It means we're a little bit slower, but we've got time because we're not under pressure. Alright, double Force of Will in both of these games. That is obviously a problem for us. We don't have any Surveil lands here. We want to leave this as a thing that can fetch us a basic. Alright, there is a Wasteland. It doesn't do anything because of our Pithing Needle. Elvish Spirit Guide. Am I playing Elvish Spirit Guide Beatdown? I could play Elvish Spirit Guide Beatdown. How do I feel about that though? I think I would rather just get a Pithing Needle down. The problem is... if we play Pithing Needle, how do we lose this game? If our opponent plays Kaito next turn, we lose this game, I think. So I'm going to name Kaito with this Pithing Needle. Because we're in the we need to not lose the game stage, rather than the we need to win the game. Bane of Nightmares. Alright, I'm not going to play this Elvish Spirit Guide out. I don't think the 2-2 beatdown is going to get there against our opponent's deck. Right, here is the Orcish Bowmasters. See, this is why we did this. Because if they go Orcish Bowmasters into Kaito, then they're just drawing lots of extra cards, and then we're probably going to lose. Now, this can chip away at us for a bit, and we don't care. They can turn into a 3-4, so it deals more damage. That is a little bit annoying, but it's not drawing them extra cards every turn and surveilling too. Sometimes your opponent's going to have double Force of Will in 2 games in a row. It happens. We can still win this game. It's not lost by any stretch of the imagination. If our opponent plays a Harbinger of the Seas right now, then we can fetch something with our Verdant Catacombs. So they did have the Kaito Bane of Nightmares. So this is just going to be a 3-4. I'm surprised they didn't just ninjutsu it in for more damage. A Thoughtseize, our opponent has no cards in hand. I think this gets us a black source because we have 2 green sources available. And I think now we are in the here is my Elvish Spirit Guide phase of the game. So we have the ability to cast an Abrupt Decay. Right, it's just coming in with a 3-4. We can take a few hits from this. So we have more Elvish Spirit Guides in the deck. Okay, so we have a Sylvan Scrying here. Our opponent's got one card in hand. Do I want to Thoughtseize them first? The only thing could be really is a Daze, and I don't think we care about that because we can just pay. So it's Sylvan Scrying here. We're going to get the Dark Depths. So if we play the Dark Depths now, it means we can draw the Thespian stage next turn or a tutor. But it does expose us to Brazen Borrower into the Wastelands. But our opponent is drawing off the top, so I don't think that's where we need to be. We can save this Thoughtseize till the turn we're going to combo off, so that we know that the coast is clear. So I think this game is pretty evenly poised. They're going to hit us for 3, and then we just need to draw one of our many payoffs here. So if we have a Thespian stage on top of our library, that's good. If we have a Crop Rotation, that's also fine. At some point we can chump up with this to buy us an additional turn, but this is just holding back the tide of these two at the moment. A Murktide Regent. Well, that certainly changes things. This is 7 damage. This is lethal damage. We need to hit now. A Duress. That's not really what I want. Okay, so we Duress our opponent. I'll take this other Kaito, I guess. Because what they can do is they can attack with all of these and they can ninjutsu in the Kaito. And then they can deal the lethal damage. So I think we need to hit that turn, and now it's not going to be good enough. So if they attack with both of these, we have to block the Kaito, and then we take 7, 8, 9. And then next turn, even if we make the 20/20 and block this, we're dead to all of their little bits. Yep. I think we're just going to be knocked out by the double Force of Will hand twice in a row. It happens. Our hand was fine. It wasn't that impressive, but it was okay. And there's the Abrupt Decay. That doesn't change anything. That is the end of the game. Unfortunate. Double Force of Will's too good for us. Into especially on the Multi 4. We were so close to winning that one. Alright, we are into round 2. This hand does not really go anywhere, so this is an auto mulligan. This hand relies a lot on Once Upon a Time to do some work. If the Once Upon a Time hits and we get the Dark Depths, then we are really good. If we don't get the Dark Depths, then we're absolutely screwed with this hand. I don't think we can rely on a Dark Depths being in the top 5 cards of our library. I think we have to go to 5. Okay, this looks fine. So what are we doing? We keep this. The Sejiri Steppe goes. We've probably been off the Ghost Quarter. So we have a Once Upon a Time that can hit us an Urborg or a Thespian stage. Either way gives us a turn 2 20/20. We're getting Thoughtseized. Alright, I will cast my free Once Upon a Time. We've found the Urborg, but we're going to lose the Hexmage to this Thoughtseize. But we still take the Urborg, because if we draw into another Hexmage, we're good. And the amount of times you draw the exact card that's just been Thoughtseized happens more often than you think. I'm not sure what flavour of blue-black our opponent's on. We'll find out. Urborg, I will play this out. This gives us the Hexmage next turn, and because we have a second Urborg, there's no downside to this getting wastelanded, really. It makes a game take more turns, and that's about it. A Brainstorm from our opponent with a fetch hand out to make it a perfect Brainstorm. Dark Ritual. Okay, we're looking at Doomsday, perhaps. So our Urborg is actually helping our opponent out here. I don't think we get to win this one. The Ghost Quarter is on the bottom of our library, which is normally one of the tools we would leverage in a matchup like this. This is just a horrible matchup. Alright, so we might be taking a bit of a dirt nap on this tournament early doors. We do have some tools in the sideboard. Like, the extra Disruptor Flutes do help a lot in this matchup. We can try and stifle their ability to use lines like Diamond and stuff with Collector Ouphe. So we've got some tools. I don't believe we're going to die this turn. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we are just dead on turn 2. Lotus Petal. No, they're just playing some stuff out. Interesting. Okay, we have nothing going on here at all. I'm not going to insult my opponent's intelligence. They're going to be able to win with their pile. So, we want the Disruptor Flutes here, so we can name Doomsday. We want the... I think we still want the Collector Ouphe here. We're not super big into defending our creature. They're not really about messing with our creature once it's in play. Pithing Needle, not great. They're not really a wasteland deck. I'm going to replace a couple of Pithing Needles for some Sylvan Safekeepers. These are going to put pressure on our opponent's life total. Just attacking for 1 can mount up. Do I need to play around another plan they might have? We'll have a Miser's Abrupt Decay in just to make you feel safe. So you might be saying you have Lotus Petals and you have Collector Ouphe, but we're the one who gets to decide when the Collector Ouphe goes. We can just use our Lotus Petal mana into our Collector Ouphe. Right, we're going to try like this. So this is a turn 1 Sylvan Scrying, turn 2 2020. And if that doesn't work, we then have a turn 3 2020. It's a little bit slow for what Doomsday can do, but they don't always send it on turn 1. Our Urborg does mean they can just get an island as well, which is pretty good. Okay, so we have a turn 2 2020. Is that going to be good enough, or is our opponent going to kill us on their turn 1 or 2? Not the most interactive of matchups in a lot of ways. We're both just trying to send our thing. There's a few like counter spells and Thoughtseizes here and there. Alright, they're sending it on turn 1. Okay, so we probably just die on turn 2. Sure. Sometimes you just get turn 2 twice in a row, and that is Legacy. Like, we could have mulliganed 2 like Duresses and things. But just having a turn 2 send of a deck that... I think its average turn that it wins is probably more around the 3 and 4 mark. So our hand was probably fine into it on average. But if we do just get windmilled out of the game right now, it means that I've only got a 2-round video, so it's probably just going to be a little short weekend video for you lovely people, rather than one of my main bits of content, which you already know because the video's come out and you're watching it. We didn't juke into anything else. Okay, so Ghost Quarter is good, Disruptor Flute is good, Bayou does nothing. We can't get anything here. We're just gonna send it, I think. I don't think it matters here. I think our opponent just wins the game on their turn. They should be able to work it out with the pile. Just a bunch of cyclers. Their life total is fine. Oh, we're going for a Lion's Eye Diamond route. That is interesting. Because if we have something, they're going to be hellbent when they do this. They're going to ponder, then crack the LED. They are indeed. Street Race Cycling. 2 cards left in their library, so they could play Thassa's Oracle now and win the game. They're going to go down to 1 card in the library by fetching up the island they put in there. And they got another cantrip. A Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. Alright. Winning with style. Alright, that was a bit of a quick one there. So obviously not the best record ever at a tournament, but sometimes these things do happen. I think the first round we can certainly consider ourselves a little bit unfortunate. We mulliganed very, very hard. I think we were on a 4 in one of them. Obviously, I recorded this like a week ago, the previous round, so I can't remember it that well. But we had to get beaten by like them having double Force of Will as well on that hand. And then I think we got double Force of Will in the next game where if, let's say, the Pithing Needle that we drew, which didn't do anything in that particular game, if that was like a piece of discard, then we would have won that game. So the margins we lost the first round were very close. The margins we lost the second round by were not great. So Disruptor Flute is one of the tools we have to try and help make the Doomsday matchup more viable. But if your opponent is just going to be winning the game on turn 2, it can be tricky if you don't manage to get in underneath him. You can play builds with more hand disruption in if you want that sort of more flexible tool. But Doomsday is, what, like 2% of the meta, so it's not like a huge deck, but it will come up every now and then. And every deck has bad matchups. If anyone tells you they don't have bad matchups, then they're probably not a person worth listening to unless they've broken the format. And Doomsday is a thing that I've said many times before is not a great matchup for us. We don't really interact with them that much. Sometimes they even have Veil of Summer to cover for like the first turn for any hand disruption, and we just got nothing. The Disruptor Flute is a nod to help that, but it's also just a generically useful card. But unfortunately, that is the end of our little tournament, so I hope you enjoyed watching a small amount of gameplay on this bonus Saturday, I suppose it's probably going to go out on. As for the European Legacy Masters tournament, I'm attending 2 more tournaments that are qualifiers for it, and they both are on the Eternal Mania weekend, which you've probably seen adverts for on my channel. This tournament, the main event on the Saturday is just a big free-for-all Legacy event, and the winner of that is going to qualify for the ELM, and there's also another qualifier for the ELM on the Friday at that same event. So we'll have another crack, and then another crack, and we'll see if we can get there. And any of you lovely people out there who are going to ELM and Eternal Mania, look forward to seeing you there. Please remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget TurboDepths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed TurboDepths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.